Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation. 888-589-8840. If you'd like to join the conversation, Michael, Moline, Illinois, promised I'd get to you right out of the break. Thank you for calling, and thank you for waiting so patiently. Michael, Moline, Illinois, you're on with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, I really enjoy your program, and anything that has to do with fatherhood really holds close to my heart because me, like many others, growing up without a father, and married a wonderful Christian woman who really kept us together. And now that I'm an older man and my children are grown and we have an empty nest, I'm getting the fruits back from just being a father and being there and loving them. And one thing that I heard that really always kept with me through the years was that there's a saying that when you reach out and touch someone, you have the power to affect up to 5 generations.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so powerful, and that I realized that in my family where there was so much brokenness, that only through Jesus Christ that changed. But now my kids come back and they thank me for being a father, for loving them, for being, and I could just go on and tell you so many stories about how my own children had reached out and touched other lives through the love of Jesus, only because they saw that in me.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, listen, I appreciate hearing that, Michael, so much. And, your story is a story of redemption. You were given sort of a rough row to hoe. You missed some things that you were designed to have, but you didn't let that stop you. You found grace from God to carry on and to give your family, give your sons, your children something different and better than what you received. And, you're already seeing that, Michael, with that bearing fruit in the lives of your children, and they're going to reproduce, with their children what they got from you, and your grandchildren then are going to reproduce what they have got from you with their children.
I don't mean to interrupt, I wanted to make sure I got this in, was that one thing my children always saw was how I treated their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to love my wife as Christ loved the church, because I wanted my daughters, when they went out and their time came and they met somebody, and they did. They said, Dad, when we meet that man, I want that man to be just like you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what they did. They found someone that really would truly love them like Christ loves the church. And it's a wonderful benefit to receive after all that labor in life, to see your children grow up and love the Lord.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Howard. Great to hear from you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Michael, that's Michael from Moline, Illinois. Thank you so much for that. And Michael's exactly right. I was looking at Psalm 78 some time ago, and you've got, it depends how you interpret a couple of phrases there, but you've got 4 or 5 generations that the psalmist is talking about the transmission of godly teaching. And he says, we receive something from our fathers in verse 3. So that's one generation. Second generation is us. Our fathers are the first generation. We receive things from them, things that we have heard and known that our fathers have told us in verse 3. We will not hide them from their children, but tell to the coming generation. That's generation number 3. So we got something from our fathers. We embraced it. We, in turn, are passing it on to the coming generation, the glorious deeds of the Lord and his might, the wonders that he has done. He established a testimony in Jacob, appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach to their children. That would be us. Again, that's 2 generations. Fathers, their children, that's us. That the next generation might know them, children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children. So that's at least 4 generations. You might be able to, depending on how you read some of that, you might be able to get a 5th generation in there somewhere. But clearly the psalmist is thinking of a minimum of 4 generations. We got things from our fathers. They transmitted them to us. We, in turn, have transmitted them to our children. Our children, in turn, transmit them to their children, who, in turn, will transfer them to a children yet unborn. So that's still God's method. That's still God's primary method for transferring, transmitting, relaying the truth of God. The message of faith in the gospel of Christ is parent to child, and it's fathers. I mean, the emphasis in Psalm 78 is all on dads. That's God's primary mode of transmission of faith and truth, is fathers to their children, especially fathers to their sons. All right, let's see what I want to hit right now. Rob, let's have clip 3, get that ready to go, and then I also want to grab clip number 9. We'll play these together. Looking at President Obama's approval numbers, and man, they are going absolutely through the basement. Here's a piece from Daily Mail online today over in the UK. Barack Obama is facing poll numbers that are now in the same territory as President George W. Bush's were following Hurricane Katrina. So in other words, the Daily Mail is saying that Obamacare is Obama's Katrina. It's doing to Obama's poll numbers exactly what Katrina did to Bush. Now, what's significant about this is you've had the media hacking and flacking for Barack Obama since day one. So the fact that his numbers, and the media was attacking Bush from day one. So it took the media 5 years of constant, unrelenting attack on President Bush to get his numbers down to this level. But President Obama's numbers have plunged despite the fact that the media up to this point have been lapdogs for him. They've been the poodle media. They've been his cheerleaders. They've been virtually the press agency for the Obama administration. So Daily Mail goes on, the Quinnipiac University Polling Institute released numbers yesterday showing that just 38% of registered voters approve of the job Obama is doing as president, 56% saying they disapprove. Upside down 18 points, 38% approval. That's where Bush was at the same time. You know, and once a president gets below 40%, it's like there's a psychological threshold in the American people, and he never gets back up above that the rest of his term. He's finished. He's done. So President Obama is now a certified lame duck from now until the day he leaves office. Upside down 18 points among the general public. He's negative with millennials 41 to 49. He's upside down 8 points. Remember we played that soundbite yesterday. Howard University, these are black students, and they're not going to sign up for Obamacare. They can't afford it. And they're disappointed in Obama because it hasn't worked out like they expected. He's upside down with millennials 18 to 29. And remember all the panic in the Republican Party. How do we get the millennials? We got to get the millennials. How do we get the millennials back in the Republican fold? Well, don't sweat it. President Obama's taking care of that free. He's driving them into your tent. And Hispanic support among Hispanics now down to 50 to 43. He's still up with Hispanics, but only 50 to 43. 43% of Hispanics do not approve of the job that President Obama is doing. And the generic poll, 41-38, they would vote for a Republican over a Democrat in the House of Representatives. You got similar numbers over in the Senate. In other words, this is potentially going to be Waterloo for President Obama. I forget what senator it was that said that. Jim DeMint, I think, said Obamacare is going to be Obama's Waterloo. Remember, that's where Napoleon lost it all and wound up in the island of Elba and all that. Well, let's grab a soundbite. Clip number 3. This is a focus group of Ohio voters who had voted for Obama. Clip 3. Let's listen to what they have to say today.
You could not walk away from this focus group without realizing the president is losing the faith of these swing voters, many of whom he won to his side both in 2008 and in 2012. 8 of the 11 participants, these were independents or independent leaners, voted for the president in 2012. Not one of them described themselves as proud or satisfied with him. Instead, they used words like vexed or disappointed.
I was really excited going into his first term. His first term was certainly a disappointment.
He said a lot of things, but he's really just turned out to be just another politician, another president.
I think, like all politicians, you talk the talk, but it's hard to walk the walk.
He's a big disappointment.
Explain to me, big disappointment.
He's not focused on creating more jobs, just fixing the economy, getting things going again, making people more prosperous, It's like the economy's just sitting still.
There was no sense of strength that came out of this. It was a sense of somebody that was being buffeted around in the wind, a person who was facing all those difficulties, and instead of marshaling himself for the times were controlling him.
Again, realize this criticism is coming from former supporters of the president. This wasn't a piling on from adversaries. When asked to describe the president, participants used words like inexperienced, powerless, cautious, timid, and overwhelmed.
Wow, inexperienced, timid, and overwhelmed. That's how this focus group sees Obama today. And these are all people that voted for him. So, you know, the message to the GOP is, look, don't pander. Don't pander to the millennials by getting rid of the social agenda issues. In fact, I've got a study, I won't be able to get to it, but from Virginia, if Cuccinelli had emphasized social issues more in the race for governor of Virginia, he would have won. Most effective ad he ran was one that highlighted how pro-abortion his opponent McAuliffe was. So don't pander to the millennials by abandoning social issues, and don't pander to Hispanics by going this amnesty route. You don't have to pander because President Obama is driving millennials and Hispanics right into your tent. So don't pander. You don't need to do that. One last soundbite before we go to the break. This is NBC talking about some of the same polling data that I gave you. And this is significant because this is NBC. This is a network that's been a part of the poodle media for Barack Obama since day one. Now listen to the information that NBC is dishing out.
Now, according to the White House, today's push is all about the success of Medicaid expansion. 26 states and D.C. have taken advantage, while 24 states, all run by either Republicans or Republican legislatures, have declined the expansion.
I don't think that's the one we're looking for, Rob. I'm looking for the NBC clip. I've got it. We might have a difference in the numbering in the rundown. Or maybe we got the wrong number with that clip. Anyway, we'll see if we can sort that out and get back to play that clip. But anyway, NBC going through some of the same polling numbers that I just gave you from Quinnipiac. He's upside down 18 points with the general public. He's upside down, forget what the number was, with millennials. Upside down 8 points with millennials, 41 to 49. He's barely above water with Hispanics, 50 to 43. And remember, 71% of Hispanics voted for him. He had a huge margin with Hispanics. That's dropped from 71% now down to 50%. And in a generic vote, more people would be inclined to vote for the Republican than for the Democrat. So Republicans, don't pander. I'm going to talk about this Ryan budget bill, which is a total disaster. It's a complete and utter disaster, this Ryan budget proposal, and I'll suggest why I think he did this thing. It raises taxes and it increases spending. This is Paul Ryan, raising taxes, increasing spending. Paul Ryan. So we'll talk about the disaster of that budget bill, why it ought to be opposed, and why Paul Ryan is doing it. Back in 2, Focal Point AFR Talk.